Welcome to week 8. So, live producers being a bit slow. So, week 8 is all about time management, and time management is one of those things where um, we we can think that the solution is to have more time in the day rather than using some pretty simple strategies to make it so that you can use your time more effectively and be a little bit more strategic. Hi, Michelle. Lovely to have you here. And so yeah, if you're here, say hello so I can see who's here, and make sure you ask any questions. Let me know like what's time management like for you. Hi Lee, what's it like for you? Are you finding that time runs away from you? Hi Claire. You do need more time, more hours in the day, or more days in the week, or are you managing your time pretty well, getting things done? Let me know where you're at with that, and we'll see if we can give you some tips and strategies. So, to get started, and I'll keep an eye on those comments. To get started, I think the first thing that we tend to fail to do is actually to do a bit of an audit, really, and to look at our true available time. And you know, this is true from all of us, and we probably need to do audits. Every time our situation seems to have changed, we should be doing audits to look at what our true available time is. We don't have 24 hours in a day. There's lots of things that we need to be doing, and there's only so much energy our brain can sort of expend each day as well. And so you need to be refueling your brain as you go, and that's something that I'm not even great at. I know that water is great for, re-energizing your body and your brain, and I always forget to drink it. So if you're finding that you are hitting your brain capacity, either you're doing too much, or maybe have a look and see whether there's a food or liquid option there that is being neglected a little bit. But the other things are that, hi Kelly, are that we have all those things like you do need to stop and have a breather. You do need to adjust, as you're working on different projects. So when you're task switching, you've got, like, a lot of you have kids that you need to manage or other responsibilities outside your work. We need to sleep. We should be exercising regularly, getting out, getting fresh air, socializing. So your work will be more effective and more efficient if you have a better balance across the different needs. Now, what your needs are going to be different from mine and from everybody else on this call in terms of how much social you need versus how much exercise you need versus how much sleep you need. All those sort of things. They're all very, very unique to each of us. So, Kelly's just said, I personally don't leave enough breathing room for the unexpected in between big tasks, or I underestimate the time I think the task will take. Definitely. Yeah, that happens a lot. And the breathing room, that's a really good one. Just being able to allow that transition between tasks and to stop and to, you know, go and do something else, grab a cup of tea or whatever it is so that you can kind of regroup. Um, so we once you look at all of those factors around the distractions, around the things that are required to keep your house, not legally, what did they call it, where they condemned. You've got to keep it somewhat clean. You do need to get out, you need to move, you've got commitments to family and friends, and these are good things. So don't look at them as a bad thing, because if you're enjoying those other things, you will enjoy work more. If you're doing work all day, every day, it is not going to be healthy for you, and it is not going to be a good long term situation. So Michelle said, I'm pretty good with time management. Well, that is until gastro goes through the school and I end up with a sick child. Yeah, yeah, there's what can you do with that? With the kids home from school and stuff like that, which is why this year was such a write off for so many people. Um, you know, it's not even a kid that you've got to keep an eye on medically. It's all right when they're unwell and they just want to sleep all day, but if they've got something like that, and they're vomiting and they're pooping everywhere and all that sort of thing, you're not going to get any work done. And odds are they're going to be clinging to you and you're the next person who's going to get sick. So it's going to be that, it's just going to continue on. It's never going to be one person. So there's, thinking about how you can manage that as well so that it doesn't sit there and end up being this massive stress for you. So, yes, true available time. It's way, way less than you will imagine that it is. So, once you take all those things into account and you respect and allow them to be, you only have a certain amount of time, and that is a much smarter way to approach your work, in my opinion. So, say you end up with, some of you will end up with 4 hours in a day to work, some of you will end up with 10 or whatever it might be. It depends on what that balance looks like to you. For me, so I'll have some days where I work and some days where I don't. And I tend to fit as much as I can between those school hours and on those days that I am working. And the days that I'm not, it took me a really, really long time to allow myself to have days off where I wasn't feeling guilty or feeling like I'm a lazy person because I'm not working. What I found was that when I allow time away from my business, I'm way more effective, heads down, bums up when I am working. I'm way more fresh, I'm more creative, I'm more energized by it. Um, and that means that my time I'm getting done in that day as much as I previously would have got in 2 or 3 days, and I'm healthier for it. But it took a long time for me to stop feeling guilty around that. So that's a mindset thing that some of you may find that you need to look at. But I did find that when I was focusing on allowing myself those other activities and the downtime, I was way more happy and I was way more effective when I was on. So, the other thing is to communicate with your family and your kids as much as is possible, how they can support you to manage your time and your tasks. So, communicating with them, sharing a diary with your partner, I found that to be massively helpful for us. So, we use Google Calendars and we can see what each other has scheduled in and we can accommodate that. So, if I've got webinars or training like this, or I've got some sort of deadline, or I've got a conference or anything like that, it goes in the diary. My husband can see that, and if he's got something on at the same time, what happens is that if I schedule that in and I can see that he's already got something in there, then I need to work out, if there's children that need to be catered for in some way, I need to work that out. But then if I've put the stuff in there first and then husband says, okay, no, I'm going to be doing this on that day. If children are involved, then he needs to work out where they go. So you book in that time, and that way we're both able to kind of support each other to make sure that we're not getting distracted, and and we're able to get the task done. So last weekend, for example, I knew that Saturday and Sunday, pretty much all day, he would be learning some new personal training program. So that was in the diary. I knew that that was happening. So I obviously wasn't going to plan to go out myself somewhere. I knew that I needed to keep an eye on the kids. And it's like that with work as well. So for us, we both work from home, so we're very aware of each other's schedules. But if your husband or your partner or whoever it is isn't working from home, then even just sharing with them what your commitments are, and looking at where they can support you when they're not at work, just having those conversations and allowing them to be a part of the solution and empowering them to be part of the solution wherever possible. Same with the kids. They know on Wednesday nights, I'm like, tonight's my night with the training. You guys have got to sort yourselves out. You've got to get into bed. They know how that works. They know that, the youngest one still was trying to push buttons just before, but they know that when these doors are closed, I'm going to be in here working, and so they need to leave me alone. As I said, it doesn't always work, but communicating with them allows it to succeed potentially. But if you don't communicate with them, then they're not going to know how they can support you. The other thing is to look at what you can achieve if you leverage your time well. So, looking at what how you work most effectively. So, as I said, once I realized that if I allowed myself to have those other activities in the downtime, I was way more effective and efficient when I came into work. That meant that I was leveraging my time a lot better. So, instead of being in the office trying to be busy or feel like I had to be doing something all day, every day, and not really getting much done, I found what worked for me was to, you know, allow those other activities, and what I call them my non-negotiables. So for me, I need to be doing gardening each week. I need to be getting out, getting some fresh air. I need to have time without the kids. One of my non-negotiables has always been around, being able to take my laptop and go and do some work in a cafe, or just go to have a coffee with friends. Like, cafes have always been a really big thing for me. I love them. I love food and I love coffee, and just chilling either with my laptop or with my friends. And so this year's been really, really hard because that whole non-negotiable was removed from my list in Melbourne. We haven't been able to do that at all. And so this week, when some of our local cafes finally opened up again, the last 2 days I have had lunch in a cafe. So trying to make up for lost time. But it means then that when I come into the office, I'm not feeling like, oh, I'm always here and I don't know what I'm doing. The non negotiables also help me with mental health, so that I am able to, take on the challenge of running my business. And mental health is a massive thing for a lot of people running their own businesses. It's an inspiration for most people. They've been in the workforce and it's been horrible. There's been people that have, challenged them with all sorts of, you know, making them feel like they're small, making them feel undervalued, um, you know, all sorts of terrible stuff. And they decide to go and work for themselves to get away from that. And there's always going to be some scars that they need to deal with around that. For me, that wasn't what triggered the mental health stuff for me. I had other trauma, but it is quite a common thing for virtual assistants to be having to manage their mental health. Actually, everybody should be managing it, but having to work around something like depression, or postnatal depression, or post traumatic stress. So making sure that you are supporting your mental health as much as possible is a big thing. As far as I'm concerned, time management can really affect that, and allowing that to be part of your strategy gives you permission to not feel guilty when you're doing your non-negotiable activities. And that's how that's worked for me. um, the other thing is to be kind to yourself. Same thing with the whole mental health thing. Be kind to yourself. Don't work yourself into the ground. Remember that you're in it for the long haul, and things will get done. You will get things done. You don't have to get everything done today. You don't have to get everything done this week or even this year. There's so much that you can do in the future of your business. The best thing you can be doing is just moving forward in some way, moving forward one little thing each day, or if you don't work every day, one thing each time that you come into the office and do some work. And that's forward. It's a great thing. You're gonna obviously have things that pop up that throw you off your feet and you go 3 steps backwards, but you get back up again and you start working forward. So look at the big picture and don't feel like you have to be getting everything done now. And also not taking on too many clients, more clients than you can handle. If you feel like you need to take on more clients than you can handle because of the money situation, then you need to be increasing your rates rather than your hours. So if the demand's there and people want you, you need to up your rates, because you can't be there for everybody. The other thing, of course, is to look at subcontracting after you've increased your rates. And we will look at that next week. When we look at scaling, we'll look at subcontracting as well. So, time management tools. So, some of you will be, tell me, are you a paper person or are you a electronic list person? I am a massive paper person, but I have my stuff across way too many notebooks. So there's like 5 here on my desk, different notebooks that I really need to bring together. It's not great time management. It's a really bad idea, but I really like them all, and they all, have been within reach when I'm in planning mode. Paper, yeah. So like I've got such nice stuff. This is things that occupy my thoughts. This notebook. I've got this one that I've raved about, my Leaders in Heels notebook that I've told everybody about already. I've got my Dubsado notebook that I got ages ago. I've got this is my Plan to Greatness business planner, and I just really want to make this work because it's got so many cool like layouts and stuff in it, but I'm not really sure how to use it. And then I've got my Inkblot VA one. They're all like, and they've all got stuff in them. So I need to. Lately, whenever I've gone out, I've just taken all of them with me, just in case my notes in that one. Yeah, pretty notebooks. Like check these ones out actually. So the same people that made the Octopi My Thoughts one. This is Holy Flock. Write that down, and it's got like little sheep on it. They're super cute. But I've also got these aren't even open. Where are they? But they're so cute. I had to buy them. They're just from they're notebooks. I thought I might buy them for my kids, but then I didn't give it to them because I wanted them. They're just still sealed. Like I've got notebooks everywhere. Love them. Electronic sticky notes. I used to use electronic sticky notes. I haven't used them for ages. I had them all over my screen. Um, Yeah, that was handy. I need to bring that back. I think when I bought this laptop, I didn't set that up. And I had all my links and stuff in my sticky notes. It was really, really handy. So, yeah, everyone's different. So, I think using Google Calendar is one of the first things that I would suggest, like a shared calendar. It doesn't have to be Google Calendar, a shared calendar with whoever it is that you might live with who has an impact on what you can and can't attend or commit to. Um, the other thing is having the notebooks to get things out of your head. You've got to get the ideas out of your head. When we had lunch today, I just said to him, "You've got to help me get all this stuff out of my head because I don't know what to work on next." And so I started writing down. I just had a chat about all the things. I'm like, "We've got to do this and I've got to do this." And as I came up with them, I wrote them down because otherwise they're just all floating around in my head and none of them are succinct and none of them are getting done. So um, Claire, I need one of those rolling suitcases just for my notebooks. Um, One day I will consolidate. Oh, I won't. I won't. You know I won't. Yeah, so making sure that you get everything out of your head, whether it's on the electronic sticky notes or whether it's in an app. You've got most phones will have to-do lists on there that natively are on there. You've got notes, you've got reminders, and then you've got software programs like your Asana and Trello and Slack, which I find that's a really weird name for something that's supposed to help you be more productive. But programs like that can be really, really helpful too for getting things out of your head and to start looking at how to just chip away and move forward on those things that you want to achieve. And that leads you into goal setting. So, goal setting is really, really great for helping you manage your time because you're going to have a clear direction and clear guide on what to work on next. So, when you're setting goals, whether they're goals for your clients, whether they're goals for you and your business, write down the big goal. So you've got a challenge there that you need to work on as well in the portal. Write down your big goal and then break it down into chunks. So like chapters, and then each chapter should be its own, have its own sub list, and then just work through them and celebrate every time you tick something off or every time you get through a chapter, and then of course once you finish the whole thing, celebrate those wins, and you will find that when you have that clear direction because you've got it out of your head into whichever format it is that you're using, you've communicated with the people around you what you're trying to achieve and how they can support you to achieve that, then you've got a guide. It's just an instruction manual there what you need to work on next, and you can just chip away at it. And VAs are like that. You can do that. You can look at the list and go, all right, done, 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 and check things off and work your way through them. So be effective with your time and don't just have it all in your head, whooshing around and grabbing at little pieces here and there, because you will struggle to feel like you're moving forward, even if you are. But in terms of your mindset, you need to feel like you're moving forward. The other thing was to, what was it? I had it just in my head then. Um, Making sure you're using the right tools, communicating with your people. Oh, having clear expectations and managing your expectations, not only for yourself, so your own expectations of you, but also your clients' expectations. So making sure, and we've spoken about boundaries, making sure that you put boundaries in place so that you can manage your time. If a job comes up, you cannot just say yes to everything. You need to be really honest and clear about your timelines. And once, if you've written things down and you've got that guide there, you know what you're working on, you'll be able to say to them, look, yep, I can work on that next week, or I can start on that next month. And you'll know that it's true. And you know that it allows for your non negotiables, it allows for your mental health, and it allows for your income. Now, the other thing is, which we'll touch on more next week, is of course leveraging your time by outsourcing. So if you're finding that things are pretty hectic and pretty busy, have a look at the things that you can handle. So when you're working on that stuff for your clients, ideally you'll be working on the things that are of most value to you. So doing your own bookkeeping or your own website, or your own document creation even sometimes, um, isn't necessarily going to be the best use of your time if you're already busy. So outsource that stuff where you can. So my day, the stuff that's on my to-do list, my task list, is all stuff that I should be working on. And then I'll have stuff in there where I'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to ask so-and-so to do that, so-and-so to do that, and so-and-so to do that, because they're not my zone of genius. They'll do them better than I will. And I'll procrastinate on that because I don't really want to do it. So I'll get other people to do that, and I'll do the stuff that I just go, this is the stuff I want to do, which is why I'm more effective and leveraging of that time when I am in the office. I've just got to get my butt into the office sometimes. That's the hard bit. So that's motivation more than time management. Okay, any questions at this stage? I keep going to reach for my water and I forgot to bring it in here. If there's no questions, just say no questions, because then I know that you've caught up with my time thing, my time warp. While I wait for that, I just want to reiterate. So, with your time management, have a look at the different tools that are out there, but look at what works best for the way your brain works. So, something like, thanks, Michelle, something like Asana or Trello or Slack may not work for you. Um, it may not inspire you to get things done. Um, I use Asana to make sure that there's tasks that are getting automated and getting done by my team members, but I'm really bad at checking in there to see if there's tasks for me and setting tasks for myself and setting them to a timeline. I am better at writing a list that has no timelines unless there's like a deadline date. Obviously, if there's a webinar or something like that, I need to have things ready prior to that. I still don't set dates necessarily, but I will have just a clear list of tasks. And that actually works really, really well for me. Whereas if I sat there and put them all into Asana and had a guesstimate of when they should be due and putting whatever details in there, it will feel like I'm being really effective and productive while I'm creating it, but then I won't use it properly. And I know that, and I'm okay with that. So I work with the method that works for me, which is my mad pile of notebooks. Um, and like this one at the moment, for some reason, I must have literally just grabbed this book at some point, which is I've got my time management notes on one side, and then I've got a tofu recipe on the other. But that works for me. I don't know why it's in here, but clearly my notebooks lie around all over the place. But that kind of um, chilled sort of approach to things works for me. The fact that I also communicate with my stakeholders, whether it's my team members, whether it's my family members or my friends, about what I need from them to help me get move forward in my business, that allows me to be more chill with this stuff because I know that we're on the same page, and I can communicate it. So communicating with those people about how they can support you is really important. The same point, communicating with yourself, them, and your clients about expectations and what's achievable and what's not. That's super important. And obviously, that's going to be easier to do if you are clear on what your true available time is and what your true commitments are. So what you're agreeing to do. Don't keep agreeing to do stuff. You just cannot say yes to everyone all the time. One of my team members, Hannah, she's got her reception company. She's closed her books for the year because she's flat out. She's not even taking new inquiries. Now she could say, all right, we'll get more people in and then I'll get more team members in and I'll do this and I'll do that. You can always keep saying yes. And it's just going to get harder and harder and harder because you're going to be managing this massive big thing. And unless you're going to be creating this huge corporation where you have a team of managers managing a team of doers, then you need to have a point where you can cap it so that you're going for quality service and you're charging out at the right rates and you're making the right income for you. So don't keep on going for yes, unless, as I said, that's your goal, to be this huge corporation, which I can't imagine many VAs would be aspiring to. Definitely have VAs that are aspiring to have team members, but unless you manage your time well, having team members come in is just going to make things messier. So make sure that you focus on this and you get your time management set up and you understand what works for you. You're clear on that, and you're also really solid on your needs before you bring other people in, and be cool with it. So, quick story, I started working with another VA a couple of years ago now, on a project that was, I was really keen to work on. It was lots of fun. She's an awesome human, and we were working on stuff, but I had already got to that point where I had my non-negotiables and I was really cool with working part-time. And I still had one kid at home and the other one had started at school. And I wasn't planning on working, 5 days until they were both at school. But then, of course, this year was supposed to be that year. Anyway, she was getting really frustrated with the fact that I wasn't hands on deck all the time, because even though she had two young kids as well, she was hands on deck all the time. She was really wanting to just really push it and make sure that it all got off the ground. But it wasn't important enough for me to sacrifice my own mental health, because I'd worked so hard to get to that balance where I was okay with accepting what my needs were. And I had to communicate with her and say to her, look, this is actually, it's super frustrating for you, I know, and it's getting frustrating for me as well. um, but it took me a long time to get to this point, and it might seem like the point that I'm at is not an awesome thing, but it actually is. It's a really great thing to not feel guilt around putting my needs first. And I had reached that, and I wasn't going to sacrifice that again, even though I could see that that's what this would need. So we ended up parting ways in terms of the business, still great friends, because I had my rules and I knew what worked well for me, and I wasn't willing to sacrifice on that. Maybe, when I was just thinking then, maybe when my kids have flown the nest, maybe I'd want to then. I can't imagine I would. It's just not the sort of person I am. I'm not a, 24-hour hustle person. It just doesn't work for me. So you need to know what does work for you, and have, if you're going to go into a partnership, make sure you're both compatible in that regards. Because clearly we weren't, but we learnt heaps from each other. I learnt so much from her, and from that experience, it was all good. So that self-awareness is going to be one of your most powerful time management tools, I reckon. That's Aussie Av. Um, so yeah, so that's what I wanted to share with you today. I've got the information in the portal as always, the assignment there for you with the goal setting as well. So please look at setting a goal and sending through the breakdown of that goal for me. I'd love to see it. And yes, uh, that's what I wanted to share with you tonight. And there's links to those tools that I mentioned too, like your Asanas and Trellos and all that sort of thing. A lot of CRMs will have task lists in them as well, if that works for you. My one does, and I never look at it. Every now and then I'll be like, I really should look at that task list. So, okay. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to ask any questions that you might have. If a regular client is desperate for a job, do you go outside your boundaries and charge more for the after hours work? Okay, so that's completely your choice. What I used to do is I had a surcharge, and it was a 30% surcharge. Now, because I'm mean, I'd make it a 50% surcharge. But I made it a 30% surcharge. So what would happen then is that I was happy to push other jobs aside, or go outside my normal boundaries, if I was getting paid more and they were willing to do it. If they were willing to pay that extra, clearly they needed it done. So I was happy to help. But if they weren't willing to pay the surcharge, the job clearly wasn't important enough and they would wait. So surcharge is really helpful with that. Firstly, you've got to know, will you implement that? What are your boundaries around implementing that? Like if they message me at 9 p.m. on a Monday night and said I need this done by tomorrow morning, I wouldn't even be, the surcharge is irrelevant. I wouldn't even see their message. I would not be interested in doing it. But if it was within the scope, of my normal sort of hours, and then they wanted me to push stuff out, or maybe in terms of my other client jobs, or go overtime a little bit, or have to do some work and wrangle the kids at the same time, kind of thing. If I'm okay with that, then I implement the surcharge. If I'm not okay with that, then too bad. That's just how it is. Or you can suggest another option for them. But so you need to know what your boundaries are with that. If your boundaries allow, and the rules of whatever they've come to you with allow for that surcharge, I do recommend it, because it's been really interesting over the years how some people will be like, yep, no worries. And they pay up front for that. Depending on how their payment is structured, you can add it later if you have a regular and you really, really trust them deal going on. But if they're ad hoc stuff, and I often had people do rush stuff, rush gigs were the ad hoc ones because they're not organized enough. So I would say, okay, that's going to cost this. This is the 30% surcharge. Do you want to go ahead? And they go, yes. I go, okay, invoice is on its way in an email. Show me the deposit when you've done it, and I'll get started. And so then, and some of them were like, oh, that's a bit hardcore. I'm like, well, I'm pushing other client stuff aside for you, or I'm supposed to be taking the kids swimming, or whatever it might be. I'm getting inconvenienced by this. This is my process. And if you don't like it, the job's clearly. So I had a few that went, oh, no, it can wait. It can wait, actually. Don't worry about it. And you're like, sweet, no worries. And other ones that were like, yep, no worries, paid, and you get done. So having that surcharge is a good filter. But yeah, you got to know what your boundaries are. But if you do have stuff where people come in and want stuff done now, and it is pushing on other things, then definitely step up and say surcharge time. Okay, beautiful. Any other questions? No. As always, I'll keep an eye on the video anyway, and if you do have any questions and they pop up, I will answer them. Meanwhile, enjoy your content for this week, and I'll speak to you all very, very soon.